Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime. I'm here with my next Avatar video. This one is going to be basically my speculation on what I think the story for the Korra comics is going to be about. I think it's the only real thing from San Diego Comic-Con that I haven't really covered so far in video, in that a lot of my reaction videos and stuff like that, discussion on the podcast, was primarily focused on where I thought the kind of production was and just the nature of the announcement rather than what actually I think the story is going to be about. So this video is going to focus basically completely on what I think basically where I think a lot of the characters are going to be, what the plot for this Korra comic is going to be about, because we can speculate a little bit because it is set immediately after book 4. So, you know, where the characters leave off at the end of book 4 gives you an idea, I suppose, about where they're going after that, now that we know that there is going to be comics covering that. So, the first place to start is obviously Korra and Asami themselves, the apparent focus of the comics. And now, I think this is an important point to make. A lot of people make out that, like, Mike and Brian said that the comics are going to focus, like, 100% completely on Korrasami, and it's just going to be a complete romance book. That's not really the case at all. They just said it will be a focus, so their relationship will get some sort of attention in the comic, because it makes sense that their relationship gets focused because our main character is now in a relationship and it's set after that relationship has just happened. Of course, their relationship will be addressed, and they've just confirmed that more than just showing that they're a couple on screen, they're going to develop it, because I think in terms of predictions, this is a relationship that does need attention. If you've seen any of my videos before, you'll probably know how I feel about Korrasami, in that I like the ship. I don't have a problem that it happened. I do have some slight issues with the fact that I don't feel it was massively developed, in that I do think it was a little bit of a negative that it did come up so suddenly at the end, and it was just made out like, yeah, you were meant to know that this was a thing throughout the entire season, when for the most part it kind of really wasn't the case. Yes, there was like the blush scene, and a lot of people will cite other scenes as being Korrasami development scenes, but I don't really buy that too much, because I think fundamentally what these two as a couple were missing to set up their relationship were just a lot of scenes where they talked in the same scene together, and we didn't really get that all that much. Where scenes where the two are talking to each other and there are hints based on the dialogue and the way that they're acting around each other, and there's more there than friendship. And for me, that's where I kind of missed out on with Korrasami. I didn't see that many moments that showed their relationship progressing from close friends to romantically involved. I get that that is what the absolute final scene of The Legend of Korra was about, showing that change, but the fact that there was no dialogue between the two that hint at this was a little bit of an issue for me. And I think what the book needs to do to resolve this effectively is address something that I think by the end of the show was a little bit of a problem with its characters, and that was that part of the reason a lot of people don't have much confidence in Korrasami as a relationship is that Asami wasn't really in the show all that much. She was never really that much of a focus, and she needs some sort of attention as in these comics to really get that across. And she needs attention more than just like in this comic, which we assume is going to be her as Korra's girlfriend. She needs a story of her own, because especially in like book 3 and 4, she didn't really have the most focus of most of the characters in the show. And so that's where I think their relationship fell flat a little bit in the show, in that they just, in the grand scheme of the series, didn't have that many scenes together to set up their relationship actually happening. So for me, the comics have to kind of retroactively explain how their relationship transformed from friendship into romance. The two, I think, need a scene where they just talk to each other and kind of explain to each other the moment when they both felt differently about each other. That seems like a kind of very specific romantic scene, but at this stage it's something that I feel is kind of needed. Whereas, like, say a Katang, which is also, you know, a main character pairing that got together at the very end in the last scene, they didn't really need that as much because they had talked about their relationship in scenes before. You knew how the two stood with each other before they actually finally got together, in that there were reasons behind why they didn't get together earlier and so on. So I think Korrasami needs more focus like that. Now, it's not all about the relationship, as I said. I wanted to make it very clear just because it's something we do know is going to be addressed, so that's why I covered it first. But where are they actually going to go with Korra and Asami as characters? With Korra, obviously she's the Avatar. She now has some plans as the Avatar. She has a goal now, which she kind of hasn't really had before. That was the kind of big thing with her scene with Tenzin, in that she now knows that there's a lot more to do as the Avatar. It's not just reacting to things that are happening around her. She kind of realizes that there's so much more to do now that she kind of knows what it is to be the Avatar. I think first and foremost, something that was kind of set up in the show is the whole spirits issue. This was something that came up towards the middle and end of book 4, that being that they kind of set it up like the spirits were going to come in and potentially help Korra to defeat Kuvira's army, because the spirits and humans were living together in Republic City, but they didn't go down that road in the end. Instead, they had this weird scene where Korra kind of talks to this dragon spirit about asking for help, basically, and he refuses and turns the whole situation around on her, basically making it out that she's evil for asking the spirits to participate in a fight that they have no kind of stock in, when in fact they do have stock in, because they've come to now live in Republic City and they need to protect it. So to me, that's the major issue that Korra needs to resolve: the humans and spirits. Like, how can they possibly trust each other when they both live in the same place, but one group is going to abandon the city and not do anything to help the second something goes wrong? To me, that's a big problem, and I hope that will be one of the things that they address first and foremost, because if the main other plot is going to be just the rebuilding of the city after what happened, Korra, yes, she can help, but you know, that's a lot of construction work primarily. Like, what is she really going to be doing here? Is she going to be involved in some sort of a like trial of Kuvira and Baatar Jr. and stuff like that, those characters? Or what? I'm not really sure. With Asami, I assume she will be heavily involved in the rebuilding of the city because she runs a successful business and she can probably help with a lot of that stuff just because she has the resources behind her. So it makes this kind of nice kind of duo that the two of them do have ways to help. Korra being the Avatar, she can organize people, and then Asami has the resources to do that sort of stuff. And I assume Varric will be involved with this and so on. We'll get a little bit of Julie through there. And in general, you know, stuff like the new airbenders will help as well. But rebuilding of the city, I assume we'll get some scenes with like Raiko and stuff like that. Maybe they'll address the next presidential election, and because I think that will probably be coming into play around this time. Or maybe not, I'm not really sure. But let's get into some of the other main characters. Let's go with Mako next. Mako was in an interesting position because we found out after the series that the writers initially had this idea of Mako's story in book 4 involving some romance, that being that he would get together with Izumi's daughter, and they'd be a couple basically by the end of the series. I would actually like them to go down that road, just because I feel like they kind of messed up Mako's character in the show a little bit by having him primarily be involved in kind of failed romantic relationships, and then they kept him out of any romantic relationship at the end of the series, as if like, oh no, he's failed completely on this front. Whereas I feel like it would have been a kind of nice way to end things for him, where he is in a successful relationship at the end of the show. So I would like that to happen, to come back. It'd be interesting to get to know Izumi a little bit through that, and obviously get to know who Izumi's daughter actually is. And it would be just cool to get to see Mako in a more, I suppose, stable relationship. The other stuff to talk about with Mako, I think, is just that at this point, I would assume he is very high up in terms of ranking in the Republic City police force. I would almost go as far as to say, if they're doing something with Lin, where perhaps Lin is contemplating retirement, that she gives the title of chief to Mako. I think Police Chief Mako is kind of what they need to do next. To make him important, give him that job, it makes complete sense to me, given how amazing of a detective Mako has been set up to be throughout this series. I probably don't think just yet they'll retire Lin, but she'll probably say it to Mako that, like, when I do retire, you're next in line, or something like that. I think that would be a really kind of cool way to go. It'd give him a really big moment in the series, because they made him a cop in book 2, but they never really focused on it all that much afterwards. So I'd like something like that for Mako. With Bolin, I really don't know what they're going to do, because obviously he's not involved in Kuvira's army anymore. He's not really involved in the movers anymore. So the main thing that we have with Bolin is that he's with Opal and their relationship. I do feel that that's also a relationship that needs a little bit of kind of addressing. Like, okay, they're kind of back together now, but I'd like to know where exactly do they stand with each other. Like, how close are they? Like, is this a I love you situation just yet, or is this still kind of early dating stages? I'd kind of really like to know that. I suppose the same situation applies to Jinora and Kai's relationship, which we didn't really get addressed at all in book 4, so I'd like to see more of them as well. But Bolin, again, I just feel like he's kind of gonna be a little bit like Sokka in the current Avatar comics, where he's there, but he doesn't really have the biggest plot of his own just yet, just because I don't know where they're really gonna go with him. I assume he's also going to be someone who probably helps in the rebuilding of the city, but other than that, I'm not really sure. And then like it's the same way with like Tenzin and maybe his whole family. Apart from Jinora and her relationship with Kai, I don't really know what they do with Tenzin in this book at all. Just because, like, okay, he still has some sort of a role in Republic City, being the kind of leader of the air nomads at this point in time. But where do they really go with him from here? That's what I'm not too sure about. I think he'll probably just be a character who is there. He will give advice to people at times. He will still be that leader, that older leader character for the air nomads. But I can't see him having any like major involvement in the series in terms of huge plot. Again, he will still be some sort of an advisor to the city, helping Raiko, I assume. But I don't know what more they do with him in that sense. Lin, again, the only thing that really springs to mind is maybe address more with her family, and also potential retirement from the police force and giving the job to Mako. But again, I don't really know. Is she that old to the point where she'd think that she needs to retire? I'm not sure. What else? They're most of the main characters. Like, I could talk about some of the other ones, but I don't really have much speculation about where I think they're gonna go with anyone else. In terms of like open plot points, I suppose Kuvira Baatar Jr. will obviously have to be addressed. Just what is their punishment going to be, given their involvement with what happened at the end of book 4. So again, like I said earlier on, like maybe some sort of a trial of Kuvira where they decide her punishment and also what Batara's punishment is, and you could maybe do some sort of a plot that continues that on, and just how does Batara try and make it up to his family, given everything that happens. Is Kuvira actually going to try and make amends for what she did now that kind of Korra has kind of changed her mind, made her surrender? So with those two characters, you have this situation where they've both gotten kind of past their evil stage primarily and have both realized what they did was wrong. Now where did they go? That's what I'd really be interested in knowing right now. Where are they as characters in terms of their relationship with everyone else, and are they just going to be in prison for a long time, or are you going to address something with that? I think the main thing is that we just don't have any idea what the plot across the 3 books is actually going to be. Is it just going to be a kind of Korra epilogue type thing, and the plot is just that it is the epilogue, and we're just going to address character stuff that makes sense? Or is there actually going to be something that happens that causes a plot to happen, whether that be a new villain or some incident happening that causes something completely new and unexpected to happen? I don't really know. They said that right now, like the part 1 at least, is going to be like somewhat focused on Korrasami and rebuilding the city, but what else? Like, is there going to be some squabbles between nations in the aftermath of this? The other open thing, I suppose, is just Wu is standing down as leader of the Earth Kingdom, and he's allowing all the provinces of the Earth Kingdom to elect leaders themselves. That would be a kind of big thing to address, I think, for sure. So I'd be very interested to see where that goes. But again, that seems like too political to like focus on at all, just because it seems like that would probably be something that just works itself out well, and it doesn't create massive more problems. In that, okay, you've allowed the people to elect their own rulers. Is that really going to cause a massive problem? I don't really know, but that seems like it's kind of done. So there's only so much speculation we can go on right now, given that all we know is that, it's going to focus on the aftermath of Book 4 and Korra and Asami's relationship. I'm definitely excited in that I feel that this has the potential to, basically, like some of the Avatar comics, smooth over a few of the cracks of the series. Avatar had them with the Zuko's mom thing being left open, with Top's parents being left open, not fully resolving everything. And it's the same with Korra, I think, but those cracks are more like, okay, Korra and Asami do need development for their relationship. Mako, I definitely feel needs another arc. Asami needs more attention, and so on. Plus Kuvira and some of that stuff I definitely think needs more focus and that sort of stuff. But, in general, there's not massive amounts to speculate on right now, and I think I've basically exhausted everything possible to talk about. So that has been the video, my speculation on what I think the Korra comics will focus on. But thanks for listening to this video, and bye.